Good Wednesday afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Morgan Wolf. New today, the city of Minneapolis is going to court hoping to put an end to a months-long battle over a homeless encampment. It comes one day after a mass shooting at the encampment, which is on private property. The city is asking for a temporary restraining order against Hamadi Sabri. He owns the property where the homeless encampment sat for months. The city says that it has cited him several times this summer for health and safety violations, and most recently, a shooting there Monday now has 7 people recovering. Sabri says that he kept the encampment for humanitarian reasons, but with the concerns over violence, city leaders hope a restraining order will get him to stand down. Sabri tells us that he plans to move people right back.
We're going right back right now. That's what I'm here for. I'm waiting for the police to finish investigation. We got tents and replacement of all their belongings they took into the garbage.
Our obligation is clear. Help people transition into safer, healthier alternatives, not allow them to languish in conditions that guarantee the kind of tragedy that we just saw.
You just heard from him there, but Mayor Frey also posted a statement online saying if the landlord wants to sue us, we'll see him in court. After teasing it for weeks, Governor Walz officially announces that he is running for re-election. It now sets the stage for what could be a first in Minnesota history. If Walz wins, he would be the first governor to serve 3 consecutive terms. But it may not be easy for him. A Hamline University political science and legal studies professor says that the governor could be facing an uphill battle. David Schultz says that some voters will be critical of Walz's response to the pandemic and then also addressing the fraud in our state-run programs. Despite his run for vice president last year, recent polling from the Star Tribune and also the Hubbard School of Journalism and Mass Communication shows that Walz's approval rating is slipping below 50%. Heidi Wigdahl has more on the significance of Walz's run.
I want to make Minnesota a place where everyone has a chance to succeed.
Governor Tim Walz is looking to make history with a run for a 3rd term in the state's top office.
It's a big deal, and Minnesota has not elected a 3rd-term governor since we moved to a 4-year term.
Larry Jacobs, a political science professor at the U of M, says the state made the switch to 4-year terms in 1963. Before then, in the 1950s, Orville Freeman won 3 straight 2-year terms. And Rudy Perpich spent 10 years in office. First, he served 2 years to fill out the term of Wendell Anderson when he resigned after being appointed to the U.S. Senate. Perpich was then defeated in 1978, but ran and won in both 1982 and 1986. But when Perpich ran for a 3rd straight term, he lost.
The Rudy Perpich defeat is certainly in the minds of plenty of Democrats. Plus, the polling that's been done has been mixed. One point, Tim Walz was popular, and that popularity has faded, particularly once he joined the ticket with Kamala Harris as the vice presidential nominee.
Republicans are hoping to take advantage of that. During the race, Walz will have to answer to criticisms from his past 2 terms, with Republicans focused on issues like fraud and state spending. But Republicans have not won a statewide race in Minnesota in nearly 2 decades. And if history tells us anything, it could be challenging in 2026.
This is a very common pattern in which midterm elections hurt the party that controls the White House. Joe Biden had this effect on Democrats for his midterm election, and I'm sure there are Republicans looking at that thinking 2026 might be a tough year for Republicans.
There are already 3 Republican challengers: State Representative Kristen Robbins, businessman Kendall Qualls, and the 2022 GOP nominee Scott Jensen.
The big question is, who are they going to nominate? So far, the top-tier candidates like a Tom Emmer or Pete Stauber, they have decided not to jump into this race, and that, I think, was a disappointment to some Republicans.
Meanwhile, with Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan running for U.S. Senate, Walz now needs a new running mate.
One thing that Tim Walz would like is some kind of support from outside the metro area. Tim Walz's support is really solidified there, but the support he had in greater Minnesota when he first ran for governor 2022 has really dissipated, and recent polls show him far behind. He might be looking for a candidate who can campaign in greater Minnesota, not win it, but hold down the Republican winning margin.
I've seen how we help each other.
Today, in an effort to curb fraud in government programs, Governor Walz signed an executive order today. It includes adding more oversight at the State Department of Health. The tech resources also going to be added to catch more fraud, and an external review of DHS. We are also learning today that the Assistant Commissioner of DHS, Eric Grumdahl, has been fired. That's according to the chair of the Fraud Prevention and State Agency Oversight Policy Committee, Kristen Robbins. It comes as that committee was set to question Grumdahl during a hearing today. Our KARE 11 Investigates team has been reporting on the fraud happening in these state-run programs meant to help people find housing for months now. In a statement this afternoon, Robbins, who is running against Walz for governor, says this is another example of DHS and the Walz administration dodging accountability for their failures. And that firing Grumdahl the day before a public hearing shows DHS is trying to hide what's going on from legislators and the public. Taking a look at the markets right now after a major announcement from the Federal Reserve, central bank leadership cutting interest rates by 1/4 point after keeping them steady for 9 months. Economists and investors say that could mean borrowing money could be a little cheaper soon. However, some argue that it will push loan costs the other way. Most analysts are predicting at least 1/4 point drop today. Traders say that we could see another chance for cuts next month and in December. Today's decision from the central bank comes as Americans say that they are very stressed about the economy. Here's our Gordon Severson.
Sometimes a calm walk in the park is the escape we all need from the struggles of everyday life.
I'm constantly thinking about money.
But it's hard to achieve serenity when money is on your mind.
The economy is one of those kitchen table items that everyday Americans are talking about.
With many Americans extra cautious about spending their hard-earned money.
Even if no one's really saying anything, you can definitely just feel it, and how people are choosing to spend their money and spend their time.
Many economists like Tyler Schipper agree.
How much do you think the average American is concerned or watching the economy right now?
A lot. If you were to ask people what's your number one concern right now, there was an NBC poll that puts the economy number one.
With 25% saying they are more concerned about the economy than any other issue.
Are worried about their jobs, are worried about the cost of living.
Many Americans may soon see some relief as the Federal Reserve is expected to cut interest rates this week. A popular tracking tool, the CME FedWatch, says there is a 96% chance the Fed will approve a 1/4% interest rate cut, and a 4% chance they cut rates by 0.5%.
Will this decision make a big difference in people's lives?
You know, there are people that it will affect their budget, right? That, especially if you're dealing with credit card debt, that's one of the first places we think about these kind of interest rate cuts going towards.
Schipper says credit card borrowers could see lower rates on their credit card bills quickly if a rate cut is approved. But he says we might not see a change in mortgage rates, at least not right away.
Mortgage rates depend more on the 10-year Treasury note, so it's a longer-term interest rate.
Schipper says the bigger impact may be on businesses that could see an interest rate cut as a great opportunity to expand and possibly hire more employees, especially since the Fed is expected to lower interest rates again later this year.
We'll need to see continued rate cuts, hopefully, to make sure that we stave off a future recession.
And to give everyday Americans more confidence that the economy is heading in the right direction.
I don't think anyone feels confident one way or the other. It's very much like we're in limbo.
I definitely feel like my dollar does less for me than it did even a few years ago.
Gordon Severson, KARE 11 News.
New today, students returned to class at Utah Valley University 1 week after Charlie Kirk was killed on campus. School leaders say that there will be an increase in police for the rest of the week, and a vigil calling for unity across the country will be happening on Friday. Tonight, there will be a vigil at Round Lake Park in Eden Prairie to honor Kirk. It comes as new charges are filed against Kirk's alleged killer. 22-year-old Tyler Robinson appeared virtually in Utah State Court yesterday, where he was formally charged. Charging documents say that Robinson's DNA was found on the trigger of the rifle used in the shooting. Text messages were also found on his phone, confessing to the crime. Prosecutors say that they will seek the death penalty. Right now, President Trump and the First Lady are in the UK for a second state visit. It was a royal welcome for them for a visit that is meant to strengthen ties between the U.S. and UK. On the docket, discussions about trade and how to stop wars going on in the Ukraine and in Gaza. While the president is visiting Windsor, thousands are protesting in London, speaking out against the visit. Ralph Sanchez is in London with what those are Can I just do this one again? Sorry. I'm a mess today. Okay, I'll count myself in. 3, 2. That was a lot of spit. I'm sorry. 3, 2, 1. While the president visits Windsor, thousands are protesting in London, speaking out against this visit. Ralph Sanchez is in London with what those taking to the streets have to say.
As President Trump meets with the royal family at Windsor Castle, tens of thousands of people have taken to the streets of central London to protest against his visit. They're united under the umbrella of the Stop Trump coalition, but their causes are various, from support for Ukraine, outrage over American policy on Gaza, and people who are concerned about President Trump's impact on democracy in the United States and around the world. Now, it's worth saying the president won't see any of this. His trip has been designed to keep him outside of London. He's at Windsor, and then he'll be heading to the Prime Minister's country residence. There were very large protests here in 2019, and when you speak to people in this crowd, there is an understanding that the British government has no choice but to deal with the presidents of the United States. But many people here say they don't feel that President Trump should have been given the red carpet, the full royal treatment, the way he was. Ralph Sanchez, NBC News, London.
Stay with us. We have more news and weather after the break.